Have you noticed that you can't fully relax around new people because you're too busy tracking their stories for cracks? You hear the words, but your attention is locked on everything underneath them. The half-second pauses, the way their smile tightens at the wrong moment, the way their eyes hold contact just a little too deliberately. While everyone else is simply enjoying the conversation, you're running a quiet reality check in the background. Most people believe trust is supposed to come first and questions come later. When you don't live that way, they call it trust issues. Like you chose suspicion as a hobby. They might say you're guarded, negative, or reading into things. But that story ignores everything your nervous system has had to learn. Psychology suggests something different. People who can tell when someone is lying rarely learn that through theory. They learned it through repetition. They grew up in situations where misreading a mood wasn't awkward, it was risky. Where believing words and ignoring body language meant walking straight into conflict, volatility, or emotional whiplash. People who don't automatically believe every story aren't broken or incapable of connection. They've realized, often without words, that sometimes safety depends on noticing what doesn't match. By the end of this video, you'll see why your trust issues might actually be evidence of how precisely your brain adapted to protect you. Let's start with how this actually began. Picture yourself as a kid at the dinner table. Your fork is halfway to your mouth when the atmosphere shifts. No one raises their voice, but the room feels different. A chair scrapes back harder than usual. A glass lands with a dull thud. Someone's jaw tightens for just a second. Nothing obvious has happened, but your body is suddenly alert. You learn quickly that the real information isn't in the sentences. It's in the tension in the shoulders, the way someone chews a bit too fast, the silence that stretches just a little too long after a question. You're not just listening, you're monitoring. You're trying to predict whether tonight ends in calm, icy distance or something louder. This wasn't you being dramatic. This was training. Your system took notes every time things shifted without warning. You learned that "I'm fine" could mean anything from "I'm genuinely okay" to "I'm about to explode," and the only clues were nonverbal. Over time, you built an internal early warning system designed to catch those clues before anyone named them. In psychological language, this looks like hypervigilance, attention turned up high and constantly scanning for threat. In unpredictable homes or emotionally unstable environments, that hypervigilance is not a malfunction. It's a strategy that keeps you ready for sudden changes. But here's what's interesting about people who can sense lies. Their brains aren't obsessed with drama. They aren't secretly looking for reasons to be upset. They've simply learned that ignoring their read of the situation costs more than listening to it. Now let's talk about the moment a lie lands wrong. Imagine a friend explaining why they had to cancel plans. The story has all the right elements, the tone is polite, the apology sounds careful. On the surface, it works. But something inside you tightens. Their voice is too smooth. The timing of the details feels practiced. Their expression doesn't quite match the emotion the story is supposed to carry. You don't always think, "they're lying." What you notice first is mismatch. The words say stress, but the face says relief. The apology sounds sincere, but their body doesn't carry any weight or regret. The story claims they're upset, yet their energy feels strangely light. Your nervous system hears, "this doesn't add up." This wasn't you nitpicking or hunting for flaws. This was pattern recognition. Over time, you've seen what genuine discomfort looks like. Slightly messy sentences, uneven eye contact, awkward pauses. You've also seen what performance looks like. A tidy narrative with no rough edges, delivered like a practice script. Your brain has quietly cataloged both. You're essentially decoding nonverbal signals, microexpressions, vocal shifts, changes in posture. Your mind cross-checks verbal and nonverbal data, and when they diverge, your attention spikes. You may not know exactly which part is false, but you know something doesn't align. People with this ability aren't usually thrilled to have it. They're not coming into conversations hoping to catch someone. They've just learned that whenever they ignored that inner dissonance in the past, it ended badly. So now they listen. Then there's where this radar got built. Picture a childhood where reading the room wasn't optional. You walked into spaces scanning who was quiet, who was pacing, who was talking too loudly, who wouldn't look up. Maybe you adjusted immediately, staying small, being extra helpful, or removing yourself before tension boiled over. You watched adults say, "everything is fine," while their actions said the opposite. You heard, "that won't happen again," after it happened again. You saw doors close too hard, smiles that didn't reach the eyes, and promises that never became reality. This wasn't you being endlessly anxious. This was calibration. Night after night, you connected tiny cues to outcomes. A certain kind of laugh meant the evening would be okay. A certain kind of silence meant it wouldn't. Your brain linked those patterns and stored them. When words stopped being reliable guides, you learned to trust patterns instead. You began to believe that you were only safe if you could sense changes before they were spoken. That belief quietly shaped how your nervous system pays attention even now. People who grew up this way and now sense deception quickly aren't naturally negative. They've just lived too long in spaces where emotional weather shifted faster than language, and they were the ones trying to stay ahead of the storm. There's also a cost. From the outside, being able to spot lies sounds powerful. From the inside, it often feels tiring. You sit in a group and feel the moment a story shifts from honest to exaggerated. You pick up when a compliment is more about politeness than truth. You hear the apology built more to protect someone's self-image than to repair anything real. You don't only notice what people say, you notice what they avoid. You feel when a partner says it's nothing, but their behavior is already pulling away. You sense when a friend insists, "I'm over it," but everything in them tightens at a certain name or topic. This wasn't you inviting drama. This was emotional overload. Your radar doesn't limit itself to lies pointed at you. It picks up self-deception and social performance in general. That means you live with more information than most people, including truths others aren't ready to face. The burden isn't just catching dishonesty. It's carrying the knowledge of what people won't admit yet. That can leave you feeling out of sync with groups that are happy to accept the surface level. Yet this sensitivity doesn't have to trap you in permanent suspicion. When used with intention, it becomes discernment, choosing who to believe, where to invest, and when to walk away. People with this radar often crave relationships where very little has to be hidden. Now, to the label that follows people like this, trust issues. It sounds like a flaw you're supposed to fix so you can go back to blind faith. It ignores the history behind it. There was likely a time when you trusted easily. You believed, "I'll change." You believed, "I'll be there." You believed that won't happen again. Then you watched what actually happened. Promises dissolved, patterns repeated. Words stopped matching behavior. This wasn't you hardening overnight. This was data. Every contradiction between speech and action added to an internal record. Eventually, your brain shifted from believe first to observe first. Watching what people do before fully trusting what they say became protection, not pessimism. That shift isn't just about trust. It's about prediction and control. In a world that felt unstable, accurately reading who was honest gave you a sense of agency. If you could see the pattern early, you didn't have to be blindsided later. People who can tell when someone is lying are often misunderstood as negative or avoidant. In reality, many of them want connection deeply. They just refuse to silence the part of them that notices when something doesn't add up. Fast forward to now, you might be the friend who senses something off in someone's new partner long before anyone else does. You might be the coworker who knows a leader's big promises won't materialize. You might be the partner who feels a relationship drifting even while the other person keeps saying, "We're fine." People who can tell when someone is lying aren't broken beyond repair. They aren't destined to ruin every relationship. They aren't incapable of joy. Those are projections from people who feel exposed around someone who notices small inconsistencies. They've become highly attuned to alignment. They weigh actions more heavily than speeches. They pay attention to follow-through, to how someone behaves when nobody is watching, to how they respond when their story is gently questioned. They figured out something many people never fully see. Your attention is a gatekeeper. Where you direct it decides who gets close. Focusing on whether words and behavior match isn't cruelty. It's self-respect shaped by experience. That's not trust issues. That's adaptation. One where you're not passively hoping people turn out to be who they claim. You're actively watching who they reveal themselves to be over time. And once you understand that this ability to sense deception grew out of survival, not brokenness, you can choose how to use it. Not to shut everyone out, but to let in the ones who consistently live in truth.